Hello and welcome. My name is Jasmine Keys, and you are listening to Why, How, Impact, the series that breaks down what it takes to be a leader and why on earth you do it. So, our first trailblazer of the season is Nicole Portwood. She is the Chief Marketing Officer at Salad and Go. When we met, you were VP of Mountain Dew at PepsiCo. Then you went on to become the Chief Marketing Officer for Live Nation before working with JLo on her cocktail brand Delola. And before that, you were the CMO of Tito's, the vodka, the vodka. Seriously, what a career, Nicole.
Oh, thank you. You're very kind. Yes, I have had the incredible fortune to have worked with and around some really incredible brands in my career. And it's spanned a couple different industries, but I think there's a lot of connectivity and translatable skill between all of those. It's been a wild journey, and I hope it's not done yet.
Absolutely. I definitely don't think it is. We're gonna talk firstly about why. So why you do what you do. You don't just slip into a CMO role. You don't slip into a VP role. You don't really fall into any of these leadership roles. It's incredibly hard to get there. And it's incredibly hard to stay there, really, in this day and age. So my first question is, why on earth do you do it? What drove you to take on such responsibility? Why did you pursue leadership?
I don't think I started my career thinking that I wanted to be a senior executive or that I wanted to take on massive leadership roles or anything like that. I really started with a sense of curiosity and excitement about the possibilities. I studied theater and philosophy in college. And so this was not a sort of classic like MBA, get the job, do the thing, follow the path. And I do consider that the greatest gift that I could have been given in building a career like this, because I've from the beginning had the perspective that following my own curiosity and learning as I go is kind of the number one thing I was most interested in. And the leadership and levels of responsibility have come as a result of what I consider like a path of self-actualization through continued learning and continuing to follow my curiosity. Now, results play a role in that for sure. But if I had to put it in a nutshell, like it really is this path of self-actualization, the continued pursuit of discovery, and the joy that I find in delivering results, but also helping other people find their path of self-actualization. And that translates really well to leadership for sure, because it puts humanity and people and teams at the center of how you accomplish those results and deliver on the goals of a company. I think I also just naturally have a bias for action. I don't sit still very well. I want to like go. I want to figure it out, and that I think makes me well suited for leadership, because I have this willingness to just take leaps that I believe leaders need. And it's something that's been part of my work DNA for as long as I can remember. And, really part of what leadership means to me is having the ability to inspire other people to take those leaps with you, even when you're kind of jumping out into the unknown and building something into white space. That excites me, that thrills me. And I've been fortunate enough to be in environments where that kind of willingness is not only kind of allowed, but rewarded.
Encouraged, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love the term a bias for action. I have a friend who says that all the time. Her philosophy is that she just wants to work with people who have a bias for action and who are excited and energetic and enthusiastic. It's clear that you have a passion for philosophy as well. That really comes through in what you're sharing. Your why is probably far more developed than a lot of people, which I think is key takeaway number one. My question then is, as you've kind of developed that why, how has it influenced the roles that you've decided to take on?
I have learned over the years to follow my instincts. And I think that's hard to do, especially when you're early in your career and you're still learning, you're still discovering where you thrive, where you're most joyful, where you're doing your best work. And I think following that instinct has probably made some of the moves I've made in my career look a little bit odd from the outside. But in doing that, I have personally experienced the most fulfilling, challenging, exciting things you could possibly imagine. There is something kind of magical that happens once you stop thinking that you have to prove anything to anyone, and you start realizing that you have the freedom to make choices that best serve your path. And so, the move from Tito's, which was an extraordinary experience that I think it's going to go down in the history books. It kind of already has, right? It's just this unbelievable story of the meteoric rise of a brand, an unlikely brand in a massive category in this country. And I left there to take on the Mountain Dew job at PepsiCo. That was an odd move from the outside, but for me, it was taking on something that needed transformation, needed a turnaround, had these big, interesting challenges that were inextricably woven into culture. And that was just so exciting to me, and something that got me looking forward to go to work every day and take those on. Careers aren't linear, or well, I should say, I don't think careers should be linear, because human growth is not linear. We learn different things and take 2 steps forward and 4 steps back and go off on a side quest and learn something about ourselves and about our relationship to the world and to other people that we may not have expected. But as you look back on your life and you look back on a career, those are often the most interesting detours. And they lead to opportunities that you might not have encountered if you just sort of marched the path and kept going straight forward. So this idea of following your curiosity and following your excitement, opening doors to opportunities that can delight you, that's definitely at the heart of the choices I've made about my career.
Now I want to move to the present. I want to look at your leadership style, the how. So, in a few words, how do you lead?
I personally value space to explore, learn, grow. And so that's how I lead. I try to give people the opportunity to use their own unique gifts and talents to solve problems in their own way instead of telling them what to do. It's like, hey, we're at point A, we need to get to point Z. However you want to get there, let's make that happen. I'm not going to lay out the stepping stones for you, because I find that just sort of constricts people's creative thinking. And I'm not just talking about creative in the kind of marketing sense of creative. I mean, creative problem solving. If you
Yeah.
give people the trust and the space to figure it out on their own, my experience has been that people will blow you away with their brilliance because they're thinking outside the boundaries of how you might have done things. And there's a humility to that, quite frankly, to be able to say, hey, I'm going to get out of your way. I'm just going to let you go, let you learn, let you fail, and support you in that failure as you're trying to figure out what the best way to do something is. Always, as a leader, be there to guide, to knock down barriers, to make introductions, help with education, whatever it takes. But I think more than anything, I am hands off, maybe not the right word, but I want to give people space to grow. That's the best way I can say it. And to teach me, because I don't know how to do everything. And certainly as the world evolves and changes, with marketing and media fragmentation and new technologies and all of that, learning from the people I work with is an absolute requirement. I don't know how to do everything. And surely as the world changes, we all need the input from those around us who are smarter about things.
Completely. And it's that outcome focused approach. We're very similar at Reuters events. There have been many times throughout my career where I have been thrown into the deep end and looked up for my manager, and they're out there smiling at me, looking down, being like, well
Great.
done, you're doing great.
Yes.
And then it's those opportunities where you get to bring them a new idea so that when someone else maybe is sinking a little bit and needs a hand, they can then suggest the idea that maybe, I came up with, or someone else in their team earlier on came up with. And that's how we build, and we innovate, we collaborate to innovate, and we bring new ideas to the surface. Otherwise, it's just literally the CEO's ideas all the
Right.
time.
And again, the knowledge base, particularly in innovative spaces, does not come from one person. That's impossible. Even in storied companies like Apple and Starbucks, et cetera, there are collaborative ways that all of that gets done. Great ideas come from all over the place. Executional excellence is a massive collaborative effort. And I mean, I use this term a lot, self-actualization, because if there's one thing that can be the greatest delight of a lifetime, it's fully becoming who you have the potential to be in work, in personal life, in relationships, in the relationship you have with yourself, with the environment, with your family, whatever it might be. Fully becoming is the greatest goal from my perspective.
Mm.
And if you think about in your own life, those moments of self-discovery where you've surprised yourself with what you're able to accomplish, or something you felt that was new that you'd never felt before. I think that as leaders, we have the opportunity to create spaces for that to happen for people. We're people, we're humans, right? Like work is a thing we do, not what we are. And I think it can be an incredible vehicle for discovering your limitlessness. And I like to lead people that way, to help them embrace their limitlessness.
Yeah, incredible. That is an inspiring way to be led, to be seen for your potential, to be expected to be great. Like that's how you reach your potential, and that's how you inspire and you create an incredible empowered team.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah. Empowerment. That's a great word for it. And we all have power. We need spaces to be able to exercise it.
Mm. You talked a bit about like kind of your full self, right? I want to go to a full scope of skills for a leader. We look at leadership, and as a leader in your field, as a CMO, there's a lot of different areas that you need to be covering. What do you think needs to be a part of that as a CMO, and how has that evolved and changed throughout your career?
I think at some point you really have to know a bit about all of it, even if
Mhm.
it's just enough to be dangerous or to understand the conversations happening in the room. That became really real for me as I began to become more senior. And you're sitting in conversations where there might be some principles of finance that you don't understand, and that is a hindrance. So go and get educated. Make sure you understand at least the context that the conversation is happening within. I'm not going to be a CFO, but I need to be able to have productive conversations with a CFO. And in order to do that, there's like a base of knowledge. Strategy, of course, that gives you the big picture perspective. I think strategy comes a lot from experience for sure, and industry knowledge combined with experience that gives you confidence in your instincts. And again, I've had the privilege to work with a lot of growth stage companies, and instinct has been so important. Not just my instinct, but like leadership instinct in general has been such a critical factor in disrupting and in building new things. Within that sort of like scope of skills, communication, collaboration, you've got to build trust within and across teams. One thing I think that has changed dramatically over the
Mm.
course of my career is this kind of shift between like fake it till you make it and oh goodness, please don't do that. I think early in my career, and I think a lot of people do this, there is a fear of not knowing something or not knowing how to do something. And fake it till you make it works well, because you're like, oh yeah, and then I'm going to go read something and figure out how to make that happen, or figure it out along the way. I think there's a point in a level of responsibility where making decisions without full understanding can actually be dangerous and destructive to the business. And so you have kind of banked results to the point where the vulnerability of asking questions becomes a superpower. And that certainly has been my experience, where you have the ability to recognize your own shortcomings, and you supplement those with additional education, with team members who have knowledge base and skill sets that you do not possess. It was a real shift for me, for sure, to be able to say, it's okay that I don't know this thing. There's no universe in which I could be expected to know this thing already, but I commit to learning it, and I commit to collaborating with those who know more than I know about it. The situation I'm in right now is a perfect example. This is a fast casual restaurant concept. I owned a pizza place with my husband in Austin. It was a single location. We built it ourselves. That is not a comparable business model to
No.
what we're doing now, right? And so I've surrounded myself with people who have deep experience in the restaurant space and can bring those instincts to the bigger conversation. Because I can't make up for 25 years of working in the business, but I can inform myself with those perspectives on a regular basis. And like I said, I think there's that time where you're like, I don't know. And so I'm not going to make that massive investment or take this big risk or sign that partner on or whatever the case may be. I also think like depending on where you are, different situations call for kind of flexing up and down in your skill areas. I've been in situations where it was all about just like building the fundamental capabilities, right? Like we got to get down to brass tacks. It's got to be about the logistics and the measurement and all that. And then others where being kind of an inspirational voice and rallying teams to the cause was the most important thing. And then other places where deep industry expertise was the difference maker in our performance. But again, like none of it is linear. It's all cumulative. And every single one of those experiences, I think, has deepened and strengthened my skills across the board and helped me to trust my instincts more and more.
That shift from fake it till you make it to being vulnerable enough to go to your mentors or get mentors and ask for advice, that is a really huge shift for businesses and a really positive shift for leaders.
I think too, what you find is that when you show that vulnerability and ask the question, most people really enjoy an opportunity to teach, to share what they know. And it invests them in your growth in a lot of ways because they're kind of part of filling in gaps of your knowledge, and that creates a connection between two people. So yeah, it's hard to do because it does require a sort of willingness to say, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't know what to do about that. Let me go ask a bunch of really smart people and think really hard about it. It's an inflection point for sure.
And humans want to help, like we naturally want to help.
We
And
do.
when someone comes to you asking for advice, it's a compliment. We're going to move on to the final piece of this, which is impact. We want now to look at the legacy you want to leave behind. I want to understand, I guess, how it helped you grow as a person, because you talked about that interconnectedness of self-actualization in and out of work, and it just being a part of who you are.
Well, one of the, I think, unintended consequences is that I now make all the decisions in my house. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to make any more. I don't care what we have for dinner. I don't. It doesn't matter. I don't want to make any more decisions today. But I think leadership has kind of just become a through line in my whole life. And I'm good with that. It's a happy place for me. I don't shy away from it when order needs to be brought to the chaos. I'm your gal. I'm happy to step in and help make that happen. It has led me to take on more than I probably should at times. I sit on the board of 2 nonprofits in addition to this amazing big job that I have and raising 2 young children and helping some friends with growing their businesses, and because I do always want to help. But I think, you asked, how has it helped me grow as a person? This idea of the path of self-actualization, it really forces you to examine who you are, to understand my own gifts and talents. I mentioned, I think everyone has unique gifts and talents. What are mine? And then how do I bring those to life? Not just for the benefit of the work, but for the benefit of my life in general and the lives of those I care about very deeply. And that kind of self-examination, I think, is a priceless gift. I've focused on it as part of my humanity within my work. And I try to focus on that as part of the humanity within the work of the people on my teams, for sure. It requires a level of honesty and vulnerability that over the decades, I've really embraced and kind of cracked through the hard candy shell. I think being a woman in leadership has changed dramatically in the past couple of decades as well. There very much so. When I was earlier in my career, a woman in leadership meant a level of kind of stoicism and thick-skinnedness to survive. That has changed so dramatically, and I'm so grateful for that shift because it's allowed us, not just women, everyone, to be more vulnerable in work environments. And that has informed my own personal growth for sure. One thing that is, I think, sort of just an added bonus is that this understanding of who I am and what makes me happy and where I'm at my best has also helped me identify situations where I was deeply unhappy. And it's given me the courage to move on, even if from an external perspective, everything was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. You're so lucky. You can kind of get gaslit by the world telling you you're so lucky to be doing something. But if it is not the right fit with who you really are, coming to terms with that and having the courage to say, I'm not going to do this anymore is hard. But it's certainly been a gift that this path of growth and leadership has given me.
That is difficult. You need to, I mean, without such a cliche, but be true to you and what's important to you. So what are you most proud of in your career?
It has to be the teams that I've built, the lives that I've touched. I still mentor lots of people that I've had the pleasure of working with over the years. And just the opportunity to share even like one little nugget of advice that could help them achieve their goals personally and professionally. That's been the best part. And I've learned as much as I've taught. There's no doubt about that. It's the people. It's the way I've helped open doors and open eyes and open hearts. It's the way I think about brand building as well. It's the same concept, just people at the center, humanity at the center. And I hope to continue doing that, even like into retirement, whenever that might be.
I talk about marketing, service, and experience as the most customer obsessed functions. You're humanity obsessed, and I love
Yes,
that.
I am. That's a very concise way to put it. Externally and internally. It's all we've got when you break it all down. That's all we've got.
So I want to kind of now summarize the why and the how and the impact and bring it back. So I'm going to say each word, and I'd like you to respond with a very short one sentence answer, starting with the because, by, and to. Why?
Because the world is endlessly interesting
How?
by putting humanity and curiosity at the center of my journey.
And impact.
To leave the world a little better and a little more joyful than I found it.
That's absolutely beautiful. Now I'm going to reverse it. So
Okay.
complete this sentence.
Okie doke.
I am a leader because I want to.
I am a leader because I want to make the world of work a bit more joyful by supporting each individual's path of self-actualization because the world is endlessly interesting.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Nicole. It's been incredible to really get to know you over the past few years, to be honest. And on your legacy of touching humanity, you've definitely touched my life and the career that I've led. So I hope that you can as well touch the people who are listening into why, how, impact, and continue to kind of cultivate that obsession around humanity.
Thank you, Jasmine. That means a lot to me. Sorry. Thank you very much. Thanks for this opportunity. It's always such a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm Jasmine Keys, and this is Why, How, Impact. We'll see you next time.